Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
What better way to start a football Friday right before the playoffs in the NFL? A little Cardi B to get us going.
Cardi B and Bruno Mars, man.
What was it? Finesse is the name of that
Finesse,
song?
yeah.
See, that's me. That's me associating with the kids.
See?
Yeah, that's me. If we believe that this guy over here, that disembodied voice of Mike Gold Jr. is still a kid, which is
Do you think your son Chappie, who is my daughter's age, or he's 22, 23, 22?
Yeah.
Do you think he's at home if he's listening right now going, wow, Dad's cool?
A, he's not listening.
Yeah,
that's fair.
A, he's definitively not listening.
Right.
And B, no, I don't think he's ever said
Good
that.
video, though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, quality video, big-time tribute to In Living Color. Bruno Mars still got the juice.
Bruno Mars.
Unparalleled levels of juice.
You know, when they sit there and talk about what would you like to do for that one thing, and I said, I'd love to be LeBron for a day and know what it's like to be one of the greatest athletes in the world. Love to dance like Bruno Mars.
Him and Justin Timberlake.
Can move. Move.
J. Tim's got a new album out, too. It dropped called Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
I know he put out a new single last night.
I think the album is called Friday.
Friday. We got
me relating.
We got new JT. We got Cardi B's basically on everything right now. I'm sure she's up listening to the show, so we appreciate her.
Hey, whatever you need to tell yourself. We welcome you in to Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are here for a football Friday. The playoffs are here. Absolutely pumped for what's going to happen Wild Card Weekend. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And, of course, it is a big football weekend. We got NFL playoff games, Wild Card Saturday and Sunday. And then, of course, we have the national championship game in college football in Atlanta on Monday. And we will be there in our bus, in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. We will be there. It'll be the debut of our bus. We're really pumped about the trip.
Yeah, we are. We were out hanging out, doing some stuff on the bus the other day, and then right after we did that, it took off for its drive down to Atlanta. It'll be down there. It's going to be there. It's going to be at the Super Bowl, the draft. But the first stop will be Atlanta. So we look forward to that. You're going down tomorrow, and you're going to be at an AutoZone hanging out, right? And visiting with folks out there.
I think the first 25 people get their oil changed by me.
Really?
So they lose?
Don't be one of the first 25 people there then.
Yeah, you don't want this. I don't change my own oil.
I was about to say, have you ever changed your oil?
No.
There you go.
Use your dipstick, Jimmy.
I didn't teach the kids how to change the oil. I'm not going to lie about that.
What was that?
I did not teach the kids how to change the oil. I'm trying to teach them about changing their filters, being able to change a tire.
Well, you had to teach Rebecca Lobo about changing filters.
My God, those filters.
Steve, the filters, changing a tire, and again, shutting the water, knowing where to shut the water off if you have a problem in your house.
Especially if you live where we live.
Holy
if you
smokes.
don't shut the outside water off, you have major problems when we move ahead to the winter and then try and get it going in the spring.
Hope everybody got through that storm yesterday. That was a tough one. There's no doubt about
cyclone,
it.
Winter Storm Brody. They're calling it Winter Storm Grayson in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're calling it Brady up here.
I don't know who gets the name, but I know in Boston, man, they had the flooding going on. So the break walls, gave way. It was a tough call.
I wonder if it was named Winter Storm Brady in Boston, because that would be a really hitting us over the head with irony based on what we're getting ready to talk about for most of the day.
Which we will get into later on, the article on ESPN.com with Seth Wickersham. He'll join us, by the way, at the bottom of the hour about the things that may be going on in somewhat of a power struggle between the three things that have been the constant during this unbelievable dynastic run by the New England Patriots, owner Bob Kraft, head coach Bill Belichick, and quarterback Tom Brady. By the way, going back to your appearance on AutoZone in Atlanta over the weekend, the first 50 people that show up will get a prize, correct?
Yes, they will.
Okay, and by the way, again, we will be there at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Gate 2, for our show 6 to 10 Monday morning in Atlanta. And if you want to know exactly where we're going to be and how to get there, check out our pinned tweet on our Twitter page at Golic and Wingo. All the information there. I think the gates open at 5 a.m. We'll be there at Gate 2. So come on down, say hi. We'll be there getting ready. We'll have all kinds of great guests.
Yeah, check out the bus. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
And the bus will be there.
My goal is to buy the Super Bowl to get whatever license is necessary for me to drive the bus.
You want to drive the bus?
That was what disappointed me. I wanted to drive the bus down to Atlanta. I've always wanted a road trip like that.
Yeah. I want you to drive the bus when I'm not in it. Just
Fair.
so you know.
You know what? I'm kind of with you. I kind of want to drive a bus. I want to drive like an 18-wheeler as well. I want to just get going on one
Actually,
of the
I
big
think
boys.
an 18-wheeler might be easier because it has the cab that sort of turns,
turns,
and
yeah.
the trailer comes with you.
Yep.
The bus is one. I mean, it's like driving the world's biggest limo. I mean, you got to be very careful how you maneuver that bus. So I'm happy that both of you want to do that. Take lots of classes,
But we're not doing it. Right.
No, take
Exactly
lots
right.
of classes, and then when you get all this kinds of certification, I will think about being on the bus when one.
We
of you
met
two
the
is
driver.
driving
Looked
it.
like a
Solid
good dude.
citizen.
Yeah.
Real straight shooter.
Yeah.
We learned very quickly the rules about the bus, too. Jason Fitz, who co-hosts Spain and Fitz, for many years was the fiddle player and the musical director for the band Perry.
Right.
And was giving us a lot of general knowledge about bus travel and bus use that we wouldn't have known before, and very specific bathroom instructions on the bus.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want that to be a problem.
No, you do not.
By the way, I
last
want
place
to
on
talk
the
to Fitz about that because, it seems like musical director, fiddle player, band Perry, very good gig.
Yeah.
Very solid gig. Very solid gig.
I know.
I want to have a career discussion with him.
It's a very solid gig until you spend 330 days of the year inside of one of those buses. So imagine living your life from now on in the Golic and Wingo tour bus.
Yeah. Hence the specific bathroom instructions.
See, there you go. Very specific.
It all comes back to
The
that.
weirdest one to me was that not to use the water on the bus, too.
Yeah.
By the way.
We'll find that out. I'm going to have to debrief Fitz for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk
We
with
got
him.
a lot to get to today, so let's start the show like we do most days.
It's time for Off the Top
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
with Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top in the NBA playing without Kevin Durant, calf. The Warriors defeated the James Hardenless Rockets 124-114. Draymond Green recorded his 21st career triple-double, passing Tom Gola for the most in Warriors history.
If you had Tom Gola as when you think of that, you pass somebody. Okay, who did he pass? Anybody who had Tom Gola, congrats to you. It's pretty impressive. It's the second triple-double of the season this year. And how about this? The most consecutive wins by a player's team when he records that triple-double. Draymond Green is now at 21 straight. Magic leads the way at 24 straight, but this obviously is an active streak going on right now. Will Chamberlain, it was 21 straight. Russell Westbrook, 20 straight. It was his 12th career triple-double where he took fewer than 10 shots as well. So while he's also the emotional leader of that team as well, and the way he plays, he is, the way he throws around those triple doubles, and obviously they win when he gets them, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, just in general, a guy that stuffs the stat sheet. Draymond Green is always going to be the deepest guy in your box score on any given night because he's asked to do so much, and that's sort of what's always been endearing about him and made you sort of understand and tolerate at times him being really outspoken. Some of the technicals that tend to come up is because you need that kind of guy in your team that's willing to do everything when you've got the talent there.
And you got to let him be him. You know, people
Yes.
always say when he's getting the technicals, do you have to slow him down, talk to him? Well, you have to talk to him to a point, but you can't take away, his tenacity and the way he likes to play the game, because that's what makes him Draymond Green.
It is, and it gives that team the edge, I think, in a lot of times when you talk about the postseason grittiness and the way they have to do things. I mean, the threes are great, but at the end of the day, you need someone to do the dirty work, and I think that's the role that Draymond has sort of relished in this team with that has so much, for like, the beautiful players. You know what I mean? He's not the beautiful player, but sometimes he's the most important player, and we certainly saw that in the game against the Rockets.
He ended his triple-double, by the way, was 17 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists. Steph Curry had 29 in this one. Klay Thompson had 28. So
again, beautiful players.
and no
dirty
Kevin
work.
Durant.
Exactly.
I mean, wow.
That's going to be the problem for everybody else going forward. We continue.
Off the Top.
More NBA. The Thunder continued to roll, and the Thunder rolls. Garth Brooks. Thursday with a 127-117 win over the Clippers. Russell Westbrook's 29 points helped pace OKC, and he collected his 13th triple-double of the season.
A team that brought in a couple of stars and was struggling.
Yep.
It was clearly struggling, and it was like, okay, give them time. When these guys get together, they kind of figure it out. Russell Westbrook's still going to have the ball in his hand the most. What is he going to decide to do with it? He did still take 24 shots last night, but he has 29 points. Carmelo Anthony, 22 points. Paul George, 21 or 31 points. It seems that Carmelo is going to be the least shooter out of this threesome, but they've got themselves up to 22-17 now, fifth in the conference, so certainly starting to define their roles a little more.
I think the biggest turning point, too, came when Carmelo was one of the guys that said, we need Russ to go out there and be Russ. Stop worrying about trying to involve us in all this. We'll figure it out, but him going out and playing the best way that he knows how is still what's ultimately going to make this team win, and then we'll focus on figuring out where we fit into that.
Well, the best news out of this game is what we talked about, those three working together, those 82 points, second most in a game as teammates. That's something that has sort of been the struggle for this thing the entire time. So it's nice to see that's clicking and see if they can continue that really in the second half of the NBA's regular season.
Off the top.
And staying in the NBA, the Greek freak, Buck star Giannis Antetokounmpo led all All-Star balloting after the first 12 games of the fan vote. He's ahead of the Cavs' LeBron James by nearly 7,500 votes.
Yeah, they're the two top, 863 plus thousand, 856 plus thousand for LeBron. The only other person over 800,000 is Kyrie Irving from Boston. That's pretty wild there, but Kyrie leads the guards. He and DeMar DeRozan are 1-2. That front court you mentioned, Giannis and LeBron, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, also 1-2 in the front court, and in the guards, Steph Curry and James Harden leading the way there. So Steph Curry already missing time with the ankle, Harden out with the hamstring. We'll see where that goes. But this year, it's the two top vote getters are captains, and they're doing a pickup game basically.
They're doing a pickup game, but where the picks are kept secret. Right. So you end up with the final teams, but you don't know the order and who made the picks, which I heard Stephen A. Smith fired up about the other day, but really removes all the drama from it. Like the NBA, you figured they would court that idea of knowing who got picked last. If LeBron James decides not to pick Kyrie Irving, all of these different things that could come up over the course of this.
I don't think they want that. I think that's why they're keeping it secret. The players, I don't think, when you're on that schoolyard, none of the all-stars, even you're an all-star. Yeah, but I was picked last. You don't want to be picked last. You know the feelings that can be hurt with some of these guys.
Can I just weigh in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know those feelings.
Yeah.
You guys never did. Okay, you guys never did. You're in my wheelhouse now. Yeah, I'll go. I'll be. All right, we'll take Wingo. All right, fine. Let's come on.
Is it really a tough thing?
Terrible.
Yeah.
You want to be the last one there? Guys, I'm over here. I'm open. Hit me. No, it's awful. It's awful.
It's like Kevin Love's entire Cavaliers tenure.
I'm over here. Entire tenure.
That seems like the way they've treated poor Kevin Love. All the while, he's just there trying to help everyone. Be nicer to Kevin.
I just want to help the team. I'm with you, Kev. Kev, stay strong. I'm with you. And we finish up
off the top.
Well, with some disappointing news if you're a huge tennis fan. 7-time Australian Open winner Serena Williams has withdrawn from this year's event. Williams is 36 years old, has spent nearly a year out of competitive tennis, taking a maternity leave after winning last year's Open. By the way, beating her sister when she was pregnant at the time, which is just amazing.
Yeah, it really is. She said basically, I realize I'm not where I want to be. She feels she's going to be there soon, but just not where she wants to be right now. It's still amazing what she has done. And now after having a child and coming back after the pregnancy, I would imagine just because she's been the most dominant player that the expectation is for her to do that. But I mean, we have no idea. It's her first child. She's coming back from that. So, we certainly, very difficult for us to give any kind of context to coming back from something like that. So, knowing her and her work ethic, I don't think anybody is going to doubt her on how she's going to come back.
No, but that's a good point, is when you're the best to your standard for what feels normal for you enough to come back is probably a lot higher than everyone else's standard. And, oh, by the way, I mean, she gave birth to her daughter in September.
Yeah.
Like, we would still be on paternity leave right now, sitting at home eating chips on the couch, so I don't think that there's any really...
We, as in men?
Well, yeah.
We wouldn't be giving birth. The world would be so less populated if this were on us.
No, I meant paternity leave.
That is a fact,
I meant just as the husband.
The leave that we could take.
Exactly.
We had nothing to do with it outside in the beginning of this process, and we'd still be taking our time off.
Exactly,
okay,
yeah. So she has earned the break here, considering everything that has gone into motherhood for her since September.
Actually, yeah, she gave birth during the U.S. Open as we were down there covering it on ESPN and the ESPN.
Well, of course, not playing in it.
No, not me. No, I was enjoying the coverage.
No, I'm saying her not playing.
Yes, also a good idea.
Yeah.
Don't be playing tennis as you're giving birth. We're going to give out a couple things of advice. That would be probably the best thing. So if you're listening and you're thinking about having a child or you're in the process of having, don't be playing tennis at that time.
Wouldn't be a thing to do.
But again, Andy Murray, by the way, also out of the Australian Open. On the men's side, he's considering having hip surgery. That has been bothering him for a while, actually, going back to Wimbledon.
That'll put you out for a bit.
It has, and it's been an issue for him for a while. We were there at Wimbledon, and a 3-time major winner, has not played a competitive match since losing that quarterfinal exit at Wimbledon in July. And again, the Australian Open, great start to the tennis year. It'll be on the ESPN family of networks coming up pretty soon, and it's always summer down there in January.
It is.
And it can get as bad as we're talking about Winter Storm Grayson or Brady or the bomb cyclone or the bombogenesis. It is hot in Australia and in Melbourne this time of year. So if you ever have a chance to go down there, it's a lot of fun. It's one of the great major events there is on the calendar because it's completely different than almost everything else. Those Aussies, they like to have a good time. Yeah. Did you ever play a game in Australia?
I did not.
I know a couple people.
I played in London a couple times. As far as
Schlereth might have played.
I called a game that was in Japan. Played a couple in London. Never to Australia. That's a haul. Well, Japan was a haul as well.
Played one in Ireland. They kept us way outside of the city. As 120 college kids, I have a feeling letting us loose in Dublin was the last thing on their mind.
Yeah, because Chris and I went to that. We got let loose in Dublin, and good thing you guys weren't there.
Yeah, you didn't want to see that. Basically what your dad's saying. You didn't want to see that. No, but Australia, thumbs up in a big way, by the way. It's a good time. We'll just leave it at that. And that is Off the Top as we continue here on Golic and Wingo. Again, the big story that dropped on ESPN.com overnight, Seth Wickersham's breakdown of potentially some cracks in the foundation, if you will, in that holy triumvirate in New England that has been so successful really since they won Super Bowl 36. Beating the Rams 21-17 in New Orleans. It's really shocked the world, and they've continued that unfettered run now with 5 Super Bowl rings for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and some things that may have gone awry over the last 18 months or so. And Seth Wickersham, by the way, will join us in the studio to talk about that article and what he sees and what he's been reporting on. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but the team that a lot of people think may have the best chance to end the Patriots' chance at getting to another Super Bowl this year, that would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, and really some very, very good news from what looked like a very dire situation earlier this year.
Again, Ryan Shazier, that Monday night game when he got hit, reached immediately for his back, and we were all, anybody who's seen players lay on the field in that situation, you're waiting to see every body part move, and we never saw his legs move, and we've never got any reports about that as well. We knew he was at a game, but the reports have been really kept under wraps. Well, his father, Vernon Shazier, said his son does have his regained feeling in his legs.
That's the best possible news.
It's fantastic news. We haven't heard about walking or anything at this point, but he has regained feelings in his legs. Vernon Shazier said he's a long way from where he was Monday night when he was laying on the field. His father thinks he's going to play football again, at some point, and I'm sure that's obviously a long way off. He said he's much better. Vernon said, but we've agreed to keep his progress private until he's ready to share where he is at. So that's great news that he has feeling in his legs, but and we still don't know, and that's fine. That's up to them on when they want to let everybody know where they are. As his father said, that's up to Ryan and when he wants to let everybody know that. But boy, that's fantastic news.
Yeah, and it is great that he's being afforded that level of privacy. We talked about this a little bit when Bruce Arians retired and mentioned he told his team the night before, and they lied to the media for him so that that story could be told when he wanted it to, and in a much more personal vein even here for Ryan to be able to be the one that tells this story when he's ready to and keep us updated when he's comfortable is the most important part of all of this, that he can be allowed. But as far as playing football again, I mean, listen, Mark Herzlich was one of the best linebackers I had ever seen at Boston College, and then went through his battle with cancer during my tenure at Notre Dame and saw him come back on the back end, and the whole time while he was battling, you heard him saying, I'm going to play football again, and it's hard to doubt the resolve of guys who get it in their mind like that, who are as strong-willed as some of the athletes we see succeed on these big stages.
And look, that would be the ultimate comeback story out of this. It's great, but at the end of the day, I think the most important thing here is let's try and see where he can go with his life going forward. Again, this was a report on WPXI Pittsburgh. And really, it got into some of the things that we were all thinking and worrying about when we saw it in that Monday night game against the Bengals. His dad, Vernon, said, Shazier said to him, Daddy, pray for me. I can't feel my legs. He underwent that spinal stabilization surgery December 7th. And again, while he wouldn't offer specifics, but when he says he's making progress daily, and if Vernon is saying, who is a man of faith, by the way, he is a minister.
Pastor,
And if he says he believes he will play again, that leads you to believe that things are progressing in a very, very positive way.
And also, from the athlete side of it and their drive and their determination to have that kind of there as, okay, I have feeling in my legs. It's the next step to try and get where I want to be. It's, again, I don't know where he is as far as, is he up? Has he been walking? I have no idea. But to have that goal there and give you something to work for, whether he's going to get there or not, I mean, we have no idea. I don't think Ryan has any idea. But to have the belief you're going to get there and do the work that you need to try and get there, I think that's where Ryan is going to be right now. And he's going to do whatever he can to get back, to get up on his feet, and then I'm sure to try and get back on the field.
All those traits that made him great will continue to help him in this circumstance. So you wish him all the best and respect the privacy now like we do.
Cruising in on Golic and Wingo, it is a little Pink Floyd Money bringing us back into the bank, which is, again, one of the reasons why one of my followers on Twitter said Cliff is the reason that the show is good. So Cliff continues to be the glue. Nicely done. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But we are joined in studio now by ESPN investigative reporter Seth Wickersham, giving us the Straight Talk. And this is Straight Talk.
Yes, it is.
Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, everybody on the East Coast is dealing with the bomb cyclone or the bombogenesis, this winter storm that came in. But Seth may have dropped the biggest bomb of all on ESPN.com. His article about some potential cracks in the foundation, in the holy triumvirate, if you will, of the New England dynasty between Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and owner Robert Kraft. Seth, first, thanks for being with us. Tell us what gave you the impetus to sort of look into the idea that there may be some rifts between these three.
Well, thank you, guys. And by the way, you actually went with that line, which is good.
Thank you.
But, I think that it was building all year. And I think that what happened was when Jimmy Garoppolo was traded, it made so little sense that it was clear, especially to people in the building, that something had happened. And so that was the impetus to try to look into this, and it turned out that something did happen, and that's that, Belichick did not want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, and he kept, the Patriots kept offering him contract extensions that were dismissed out of hand.
By Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent.
And his agent, who also was the same age as Tom Brady.
Right.
And it was just...
That would be Don Yee, by the way.
Exactly, in a very odd situation, very extreme situation, and 2 weeks before the trading deadline, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft had a meeting, and they've met a lot this year, more than in most years, but this one went long, and people in the building didn't know what was going on. Bill's meetings for the rest of the day kept getting canceled and postponed, and he came out of that meeting with the directive that Jimmy Garoppolo is not in our long-term plans, and we need to figure out a trade partner. And he texted Kyle Shanahan, and when they connected on the phone, that trade went down.
Two things I want to follow up on there. Number one, when you said the directive was Jimmy Garoppolo is not in our long-term plans, that came from who?
That came from the owner. I think Belichick felt backed into a corner. I think it was an extreme situation. And, Bill has always adhered to the philosophy that when the owner gets involved in football decisions, it's time to go. And I think he left the impression on people in the building and outside that this current situation is unsustainable.
Okay, so real quickly, you're saying that Kraft told Belichick he needed to trade Garoppolo.
I think that was what they came out of the meeting with the decision.
Because Mike and I have been talking about this, and I think we can understand from a football perspective the contract that they would have had to have used to retain Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, they probably would have had to franchise him because they were offering him a deal. Offering him a deal, about 18 a year, 4 years. That as you mentioned, he and his agent they turned down out of hand. They didn't even give it a thought. So, and then it seemed so odd to franchise a backup quarterback, especially when Tom Brady's having an MVP year. I didn't see how they could hang on to him either. But the big thing here to me is that I thought that decision would come from Bill Belichick, not from Robert Kraft. So that seems to be, do we think, this is a favorite to win the Super Bowl. And if they were to do that, I still can't imagine any way Bill Belichick is not with the Patriots next year. Are you saying that's a possibility?
Well, we'll see. Now, I think that, this has just been a different year in New England. Brady is
by the way, we should point out, a different year at the same time, they're doing what they always do.
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing what they always do, which is winning.
Yeah. Well, that's the most interesting thing to look back for a second. This is what they've done is unprecedented, and so nobody can really completely understand what it's like to have this run of success for this long and deal with these dynamics. But I think there's been a general sense in the building that because of Alex Guerrero and the TB12 method, which has become a divisive problem in the building.
Which was chronicled earlier this
Yes.
year about some of the issues, and Belichick rather stripped his credentials of going
I
on the
wrote
team,
about
playing
it.
in the
Yep.
sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, I think that, so that was an issue. Tom's desire to play into his 40s and just how realistic that is became an issue. And because of that, you just sort of have this weird dynamic in the building where, there is a rift between Brady and Belichick. And, they've never been best friends, but this is just different. And there's definitely a sense in the building that this thing could be coming undone. I think you're going to see both coordinators leave. You're going to see some of the assistant coaches either retire or try to go with them.
And when you say by coordinators leave, by getting head coaching jobs somewhere else, not just go. Right.
Yeah, that would be Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, and Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, which has happened before, by the way, with Romeo Crennel and Charlie Weiss.
Right.
And I think the question for Belichick, and I think the question that he is probably asking himself is, do you really want to be around with a 41-year-old Tom Brady, with all the Guerrero drama, and with the mandate of having to find the next Garoppolo and develop him again?
Well, see, that's the thing that's most interesting to me here, guys, because there are two things we know with great certainty, and if you read the article, I mean, Tom, the quote was he felt like he won by playing, having Kraft back him in this. Kraft's not selling the team. Brady's not going anywhere. So if this is, as you're alluding to, the beginning of the end, there's only one person who may be on the move, and that would be arguably the greatest coach in any sport in any time, Bill Belichick. I mean, that's the only sort of matzo ball that would be hanging out there.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is the feeling from inside the building. It's just that, this could happen. I mean, I think that Belichick being Belichick, nobody knows what his plans are, and I don't know if he's decided that, but I think that he's definitely left the impression that the idea of walking away, in a meeting, trying to, make a decision at whenever the Patriots season ends on their future and to try to, see if this can work out for another year. I think that'll all happen.
And I guess for me, looking at this, because you mentioned, Trey mentioned, Tom Brady felt like he won. Like, the idea of winners and losers here indicates to me, and you mentioned at the end of the first paragraph, for the almost 2 decades, Belichick managed to subvert the ego of his best player, his boss, and himself for the better of the team. Why does it seem like to you that ego has popped up in this situation more so than we've ever seen?
That's a great question. I think that people in the building feel that the last Super Bowl changed things. And I think that, Bill has always coached Tom really hard. And I think that that's wearing on Tom this year. He hasn't been shy about that in the building. That, look, I've accomplished a lot. Do I really need to be, torn apart in front of the team every time, or the subject of, sort of manipulation? And, is this really this necessary? And, Tom has also become more of an advocate of positive thinking as he's gotten older. And of course, that's not Belichick's system. I think that there's a lot of negativity and a lot of fear based in his system. And I think that that is something that's been difficult. Belichick went after Brady last year after they played the Texans in the playoffs in front of the entire team and lit them up like people had never seen. Right. And, essentially said, kept replaying Brady throwing interceptions and saying, we were lucky to win. And this stuff is going to beat us in the future. And I think that, when they all came back this year, and especially Tom, the way, September was a different year for him. He started his book. He was pushing TB12 more than he ever has. And I think that the dynamic just changed.
ESPN's investigative reporter Seth Wickersham with us on Golic and Wingo. Again, the story is on ESPN.com about some potential rifts in the foundation of the Patriots between Robert Kraft, the owner, Bill Belichick, the head coach, and Tom Brady. Now, you mentioned that things changed after last year's Super Bowl. What changed specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what happens, look, I mean, take again, step back for the Patriots. I mean, what they've been able to accomplish with these highly competitive, hard charging men has really been remarkable. And we see this happen in sports all the time where these sort of great dynasties fall apart. It's not sustainable that long. And I think that what happened isn't unique in the grand scheme of sports, but it's just unique to the Patriots. And again, it's this idea that Tom feeling emboldened, wanting to play longer, Bill wondering how realistic that is. In the middle of it all, Bill having Jimmy Garoppolo, who he wanted to coach and saw as a final piece of his legacy, setting up the Patriots at quarterback beyond his years there. And so I think that like all of those, and then you have Robert Kraft in the middle of it all, and also, someone who is an investor in TB12.
So you have the situation, obviously, of Kraft, of Belichick, and of Brady. But, I guess from my son Mike and I side of it, guys who kind of lived in the locker room, and you always hear that Patriot locker room as the culture in that, the professional culture in that Patriot locker room. Where is that? Because in your article, it talks of players that are, should I go see Guerrero to get in favor of Tom Brady, or do I see the team doctors to be in favor of Belichick? Is that locker room becoming somewhat split?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. And I think that a lot of the players feel trapped because they see, Amendola and Gronk going to TB12, and they're like, well, that's the click. That's how we get, the ball. And it's unspoken, but there's a pressure there. And, meanwhile, you have severe skepticism on the Patriots side. They've been exposed to Guerrero for a long time, and, I think that they've drawn clear lines around him like we've discussed.
Right.
And I think that, that's just, it's been an issue, and nobody knew exactly how to address it because Tom is essentially like management now. I mean, players refer to him as sir. And, I think that they just were like, well, where do we go and what do we do?
Well, look, this is, it's really interesting on a lot of levels, as Seth Wickersham was with us, the ESPN investigative reporter, because this has been the one foundation of this team has been one voice.
Right.
That has been the one voice mantra. And the idea that maybe Bill feels usurped in being that one voice, is that the biggest issue here?
Well, there's a lot of big issues, but I think that, at the end of the day, it's just like, what is sustainable?
Yeah.
And, clearly trading Garoppolo was a breaking point. There's something changed with the future of the franchise. And like I said, it just made no sense. I mean, people in the building were like, why would the game's most shrewd long-term strategist trade 2 backup quarterbacks in a 2-month span with a 40-year-old starter who's been banged up? It just made no sense.
Well, and along those lines, when they made the trade, they didn't have another quarterback on their roster. They didn't have one. They had to go get one, and that, of course, was Brian Hoyer. It's a fascinating read. It's on ESPN.com. Our investigative reporter, Seth Wickersham, putting out the story. Thanks for being with us.
You're going to be busy today, I'm sure.
I would imagine we'll see you on a variety of platforms
Thanks,
here
guys.
At ESPN. Seth Wickersham with us. Coming up, we'll react to what we just heard from Seth and start looking ahead to Wild Card Weekend next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. Continue to roll on here on Golic and Wingo on a Friday morning. Getting you set for the playoffs in just a little bit. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But obviously, guys, the article that Seth Wickersham put out on ESPN.com, and he joined us in studio last segment, is going to get a lot of conversation. A couple of preliminary thoughts that I have about this. Number one, if all of this is as Seth reports, and there are some serious rifts, it just speaks once again to the testament of Bill's ability to get everybody to say, look, just do your job. Because in a lot of other situations, if this were going on, would they be the number 1 seed and have home field advantage and have a guy like Tom Brady potentially winning yet another MVP? I mean, if all this is going on and they're still doing this, I think it speaks to the brilliance of Bill Belichick more than anything else.
Yeah, the main thing about this to me is because, with the whole TB12 and now Bill Belichick is basically Alex Guerrero, you're gone from here. You do your thing at TB12 centers, but not with us anymore. I think players eventually work through that. We talked about, do they feel like they should follow that guy to get in Tom's favor or not? That all, I think, will work itself out. At the end of the day, you're going to do your work to do your best on the football field. To me, the biggest question here is I never thought they were going to keep Garoppolo anyway because
I'm with you there.
I didn't know how you were going to pay him. If Brady is having an MVP year, you're not going to all of a sudden next year, in my opinion, say Brady's not your quarterback anymore. And if you're going to have him be your quarterback, how are you going to keep Garoppolo? So I never thought you were going to keep him. But I didn't think him leaving was going to be Kraft telling Belichick to get rid of him. That to me, if that is the truth of what went on, that to me is an important piece.
Well, and to that point, based on the timing, and clearly if Belichick was the one that didn't want to get rid of him, then he had plans of keeping him, right? Like, he was at least entertaining it. If it took him that long to get rid of it, so clearly someone there, Bill Belichick involved in it, was thinking about keeping it involved, and he was told, no, that's not going to happen. As far as what you said about the guys feeling compelled to go with Tom Brady's trainer or not, that's culture of fear and silence, right? You're afraid to do anything, and you're afraid to speak up. That's why Bill Belichick and the Patriots are successful, because everyone is so afraid that they are replaceable, and Tom Brady found out he's the one guy that's exempt from that. Everyone else lives in constant fear in that organization that you'll be shown the door because they don't actually need you. And so you keep quiet because of it and you do your job.
And Kraft just emphasized that point by saying, get rid of Garoppolo. And now, when have you ever seen Bill Belichick not prepared? He had no backup. He had no quarterbacks, no other quarterbacks on there.
When they made the trade, there was no other quarterback on their roster because they'd already gotten rid of Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
Look, I'm with you. I always thought they were going to get rid of Garoppolo because there was no way they could afford him unless they were prepared after 2017 to turn over the reins. And how do you do that with what we're seeing out of Tom Brady?
Maybe they were holding. I thought maybe they'd hold on to the Garoppolo to see if Brady got injured, if Brady started showing signs of aging. But if he didn't, if he's doing what he's doing now, I never thought they were going to keep Garoppolo.
I just felt like if they were really not committed to keeping him, they would have traded him around the draft. In that offseason, his value was at a fever pitch. People were clamoring for Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason, and I feel like you could have gotten him for a lot more than a second-round pick at that point.
I agree with that.
I understand it's basically a first-round pick and all that stuff, but call it what it is.
Well, yeah, but at that point, I think they were. I have to believe they were a little okay. Let's see what Tom can do at 40, right? I mean, I think if you traded Jimmy G at that point, you're basically assuming that everything that you know about Tom Brady going forward will continue to 41, 42, 43. So in my mind, why they didn't trade him there is like, let's just make sure we're covered here if we do this.
But then I don't think that thought process changes. If you're coming off of what probably could have very easily been an MVP season last year, him doing it again this year, why would that change your thought process then on potentially thinking, well, you know what, let's see how it plays going forward. It's year to year with this guy.
I think because when you're 40 and you got an Achilles,
it's never happened before.
You got a shoulder, it hasn't happened. I think you have to have some kind of backup ready just in case. And if Brady makes it through the season as the MVP, then maybe you're not going to get what you could have got for him, but you had to kind of keep him as a fail-safe just in case a 40-year-old kind of starts falling apart, which Brady has not done.
Exactly. Everything we know about the history of the NFL said this probably wasn't going to happen with Tom Brady. I mean, we've only had a few quarterbacks with winning records. Only one quarterback over 40 has ever taken a team to the playoffs. That was Brett Favre. He went 1-1. So this was a great unknown, and Brady proved he can still play at a very high level.
Do you think they're all back intact next year?
Well, no, I mean, I think the rest of that staff's going to be gone. I think Patricia.
I'm sorry.
The big three. Brady, Belichick, and Kraft.
I think they'll be back next year, but I wouldn't be shocked if this starts to feel the effects next year. It's going to insulate them through the playoffs now, the silence and fear. It will do its job for now. I don't know about next year when all this has time to marinate.
And we all know they're all getting ready for the 19th hole. We get that, but I think they're back next year doing their same thing again.
I agree, because at the end of the day, only one of them can leave, and that's Belichick. And do we really believe that Belichick's walking away at this point with what he has in that team? That's the only one, because, as we said, Brady's staying and Kraft is still the owner.
He owns the team.
All right, we got much more to talk about. We got the playoff games coming up. In the last 5 years, quarterbacks making their playoff debut, 1-10. We got two of them squaring off in Jacksonville. We will get into it next. Golic and Wingo.